Alright, so today we are going to show you how to change the pads and rotors on your Brembo equipped Genesis G70. This one is a rear wheel drive model, but it will be the same for the all wheel drive as well. This one we're doing upgraded brakes from R1 Concepts. So we're changing the pads and then they're drilled and slotted rotors. So we'll show you what it takes if you're going to be doing this job. These ones are actually really straightforward, and we'll show you what we have to do here. So we'll go ahead and get started right now. So first thing we need to do is there's two screws you have to take off to remove the brake rotor. They can be pretty rough sometimes. If you have one of the impact screwdrivers, that's the best way to do it. Just make sure you have a good broad-headed Phillips, so you can try to make sure you don't try to round those out. As I said, they do like to get messed up. And if we turn here, we're going to do first, we're going to change the pads, and then we will remove the whole caliper and replace the rotor. We will go ahead and undo our 10mm bolt there for the brake hose. You do not have to do that for changing the pads. That's just to remove the whole caliper assembly. There's these two pins that go through here that retain the brake pads into the actual caliper housing. Those are just driven in, so we do have to hammer them out. They hammer out pretty easily, actually. It doesn't take too much. What I'm using is just a short extension, just right against it, a couple light taps. You do want to be careful, obviously, not to damage the finish on your Brembos, because let's face it, it's one of the best part of having Brembos, right? There you go. Take some little taps. We got our little bit longer driver to go on the end of this one. There we go. And it does go under this retaining clip here. That just keeps pressure against the brake pads, basically for anti-rattle. So we'll need to put a little bit of pressure on that when we pull this out, because this kind of slender section here on this press-in pin does go through that little chamfer right there on that. And same with the top one as well. And now without any tension on it, it moves out quite easily. Just bend up on that clip a little bit, wiggle it, and the clip comes right up. While removing the pads on this, should be able to kind of lightly pull them towards you, and that will actually compress the pistons in and give you some wiggle room for that. Then you can actually slide the pad up and out. But we will go ahead and pull on it a little bit more. Continue spreading the pistons like that. Make sure they are all the way back. That way when we have our new pads and the new rotors, we don't have to try to fight them back on there. We have to push the pistons pressed back as far as we can. And we'll go ahead and do it with these ones, pushing them back as well. The one thing we will want to also watch is pay attention to the orientation of where the pad is with the squealer. One has a squealer, one doesn't. On this one, it's on the outermost pad. And then also this little noise reduction shim here, we will need to swap over to our new pads. We have our new pads here from R1 Concepts. These ones were actually brought to us by the customer. And it just slides right down over it like that. Slide that one down into there. On this one, you can't really install this clip after you put the pin in. You might be able to do it on one side, but it'd be kind of difficult because they got it locked into there. So you need to get it up in there and get this pin started going through. Make sure you line up going through your pad on the first one, and then get this to slide in through that top portion there. So now we got this pin started through on our anti-rattle clip. So on this one, when we're putting it through, we will need to apply pressure to the bottom of that to actually get the pin to go through it properly in the little chamfer. Do that. First step, get it lined up with the pad. There we go. And get that wiggled in there. There's a wiggle. with better perspective on it and get it lined up into that pad. Let's place our extension back on here. Like I said, be careful not to hurt the paint. Or the powder coat, whatever they use on these. I believe they're powder coat. Get this one started in. And then these nubs will actually go in flush with the caliper. You see, it's sitting right on those pins. So locked in. There all the way through and flush on there. We already have our 10mm out of that. Our bracket bolts. There's just two to hold it right to the knuckle. Those are 17s. These. There we go. And then our caliper slide up and off. Slides right in there. We put our nice little towel right there. We can set our caliper on the control arm while we're doing this. Towel there, that way we don't hurt the finish on that. If you are an all-wheel drive guy, obviously you can't do that because you'll have CV axle there. So I'd recommend using like a piece of wire or something like that through one of the bolt holes to hang the caliper up. That way it's not hanging off the brake hose. Sometimes we'll get a little bit stuck on there and go around with a, put one lug nut on, roll it around with a rubber mallet, and hammer on the back, and it'll slide off. Had to do that with the other side. This side came off pretty easy, so. Alright, we have our new brake rotor. Nice drilled and slotted setup. When you're putting it on, you do want to make sure that you line up the two screw holes. And yes, these are directional. They do have listed on the back of the part number for left and right. Generally, the slots are always angled back. Some manufacturers say it doesn't matter. Some people don't care. Some like to put them the other way. I've always done them like that. These don't take a ton of torque. They just got to be snugged up. Now we will get our caliper set back up there. Get one of our bolts ready. Make sure our pads are all the way set back. Place them over the rotor.
Do what you know.
I can tell you what things are.
Snipers knows. What is it?
Swiper, no swiping?
Yes, that's Sniper. Sniper, no swiping. That makes no sense. Do nothing.
Swiper, no swiping. With those to a copious amount of torque. By that I mean pretty damn tight. Alright, so both of our 17mm tightened back up. Put our little 10 back in. Go ham on that one, it's just a 10. Bam, get that photo finish. Ready. On this coating, some people will take that and sand it down or try to run through a lathe or anything like that. You can do that if you want to. This is a very, very thin coating and it comes off real easy just with a couple times you stop the first time. It's not going to build up in the pads. It's not going to do anything to hurt them or glaze them in or anything like that. Do that one good hot stop and that'll all be gone. You don't have to worry about any of that. We've done that on many, many, many setups and it doesn't hurt anything. So that is what it takes to do front brakes on your G70. Now we're going to step back to the rears and we'll show you the setup on those. Alright, so now we are doing the rear brakes on the Genesis G70. They are basically identical to the front setup, just a little bit smaller. And really we're doing all the exact same work as we did to the front. We do have our two 17mm bolts holding the caliper to the knuckle. We still have these same pins we got to press out for the pads. And really, we don't even have to undo a brake hose on this side. Let's undo it and set it up here. We'll swap out the rotor. Still have your 2 Phillips head locking screws for the brake rotor. I already went ahead and broke those loose. We talked about that on the front ones. So really it's basically dirt simple to do these ones. But that's really it. Always double check your work. Make sure there's anything that you touched that you did tighten it back up. This one's really straightforward though. It's got these screws, swapped over our little plug. Our 2 pins are hammered back in. Our retainer one is back in there. Our 2 17s are tightened back down. You are done. Like I said, before you move the car, get in and depress the brake pedal a few times to get all the pistons to take up all the slack, especially, you know, because all 4 brakes will have been compressed on this one. And then go out and do a couple firm stops with it. And should be good to go. Enjoy your new brakes from R1 Concepts. Crispy over here stealing shit.